Hello, hello, hello. Niiamah Ashong here, and for the first time, what's the word I want to say? I am graced with the presence of someone sitting right next to me. We have Vicky Vaswani, who's here, and we're going to have an amazing conversation today. Vicky, it's wonderful to have you and get a chance to introduce you to the Outliers, Pioneers, and Mavericks today.
Thank you, Nemo. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad and honored to be with you in your presence, of course, and to share a little bit about myself and my story to your community.
Yeah. Well, come on in here. I feel like this is the place where I want us to be able to play. I want us to be able to, you're here because I see you as an outlier. I see you as a pioneer. I see you as a maverick. We've had a lot of conversations that have just been really meaningful. And I think that your journey and what you stand for and the things that you work towards are things that honestly a lot of us that listen to this and that watch it or are part of this community also think through. So I'm very excited for this year. For everyone that's a part of this conversation, this is our first time doing things with video, the first time doing it in this way. So we're just going to go with it. And know that the conversation is more important than anything else that might happen. I'm saying that more for myself so that I don't get all up in my head. And instead we can just focus on having a really quality conversation that's focused on service. All right?
Sounds good to me.
Cool. So Vicky, I'm going to take this moment here. I'm going to turn to you and actually just introduce you into the room a little bit. All right. It's great seeing you right here. I'm so thrilled that we're doing this here. Vicky, who you are to me is a person who knows what you're about, who chooses goals that for most people would scare or intimidate them and still finds a way time after time after time to set enough space and set enough time in order for you to know that it's an accomplishable goal. And what I love about you is that you don't compromise on what your goals are. You don't make your goals any smaller. You're willing to take the small steps along the way to make it come to life, but you don't start by shrinking that goal. Instead, you hold it out and it's in complete integrity, and you bring all of you to the problem and to the possibility that makes that a reality. When I think about you and I think about our time, when I think about what got me excited for talking to you today, I know you to be one who has purpose and also balance and harmony in your life. You're someone who has done well business-wise in a number of different arenas. You contribute and you help others. You are willing to be so much more than just yourself on behalf of yourself, behalf of your family, and of those who are impacted by you. And I know that it brings me great joy, great pride to be able to have this conversation with you here in this community. So with that here, I really like to just make sure that I connected, why are we here? Why am I choosing to have this conversation with you? I need you to know this here, coming into this conversation. I've let people know about you in terms of how I see you and what you invoke for me. I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself, your bio, things like that. Let's give people a chance to get to know who you are.
Before I say anything about me, I think, Nemo, something about you. I realized from our numerous conversations that you are one of the best givers of compliments that I've actually ever met in my life. And if I could have a 45-minute sessions of you just complimenting me, I think that would really bring up my already very high self-esteem to another level. But then we can have that for another time, not for today for sure. But then a little bit about me. I just turned 30 not so long ago, and that was something which I was really looking forward to because why was I looking forward to turning 30? Well, that's because it's meaningful. It's been a meaningful 30 years. And I do have a really crazy goal, which I like to call GOAL, which is a go on and laugh goal, which is I want to live till the age of 100. So I've still got a good 70 more years to go. And I know some of you may be wondering what's the whole point of living till 100. But I think for me, it's all about being out there, being the best version of myself, and basically living my life to its purpose. And a full 100 years, a century of it, would be something which I would really enjoy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, now you've gotten me a little bit interested here. All right. Let's just just because I like to play the curiosity game, and then we're going to go into a little bit about how the two of us know each other, and then see what would really serve you. But
Sure.
If you just had to just go off really quickly with some of the things that in living that best life and living out like that 100 years here, what are like, let's say your top 5 or 5 things that come to mind of like, yeah, I would love to have done this before the end of those 100 years?
I would have loved to gone to Machu Picchu. That's one of the things on my travel list as well. I love taking cruises, so I would love to take a world cruise all around. I mean, a month, 2 months just on a cruise and getting off the cruise. And a lot of it is spending time with people that matter to me, spending time with people that I care about. And a lot of it is just about being in the moment and having fun and not thinking about, even though I'm thinking about technically living till 100, but I know that every single second right now, because tomorrow anytime can happen, because I mean I'm from the insurance industry, so I talk about death, I talk about illnesses, disability all the time, every single day. So I know that anything can happen at any time, but I am glad that I live every second to its fullest. And maybe that's why I want to live till 100, because I want to live every second to its fullest, all the way till 100.
Okay. Well, I like that a lot. And so let's make sure in our conversation here, for however long it goes, every single second we're living that out to the fullest. All right?
Perfect.
Awesome. So why don't we share a little bit here about like how, like, where you were in your journey when the two of us first met. So take us to that. I love to. You do a lot of great things in the world. I love to make sure we introduce some of that here, and at the same time, what we do is, yes, we will share your outer journey, the external successes that you've done and that others can see. And we'll also give ourselves a chance to explore it through the lens of what's happening internally as well. So why don't you take us a little bit to when we first, what brought us both into each other's worlds, and we'll take it from there.
And it was actually a who that brought us both into our world, and that was actually my best friend, Jared Nair. And he's somebody who's dear to me. He's known me for close to 10 years now. And when Jared says you have to meet anybody, I make sure that I meet that somebody. And that somebody turned out to be you. And that at that point of time in my life, I was 29. It was 29, turning to 30. And I was living a good life. I was living, I would say, a better than normal life. Coming back to the reference, we'll come back to that later. But somehow I felt that because it was getting hard balancing too many things on my plate. There were too many things on my plate, and as much as I like to balance stuff, but I feel that I was putting disproportionate amount of energy. The ROI that I was getting from the energy that I was expending was not something which I was enjoying, and at the same time was having a little bit of interesting things going on in my relationships as well. So the 5 main areas of my life, which is the health, wealth, relationships, personal development, and spirituality, that's the 5 main areas which I do a monthly review on. So everything was going good, but somehow the next level was what was missing for me, I feel. And that's the main reason why I decided to connect with you. And I can say, yeah, I feel I have reached that next level to a large extent. And that's why the interesting thing about hanging around you, or hanging around people like you, the pioneers, the mavericks, the outliers, is once you reach the next level, what's the next level after that? Yeah. So that's something which I always enjoy talking about when I'm with you. And yeah, I think that was that a good summary?
Let's go with that. Like, and thank you for that. I'm going to receive that in this moment. I think the thing that I'd love to explore on behalf of the Outliers, Pioneers, and Mavericks that are listening to this here, there are a few different things. All right. The first one here is you alluded to better than normal, and I think that if we're really going to have this conversation, better than normal means something. It's more than just a phrase to you. It's a way of life and more. So do you mind sharing with us a little bit about what better than normal is?
Sure. Better than normal, it's the motto essentially through which me and my cousin live our lives. My cousin being Hitesh Ramchandani, he was born with cerebral palsy at birth, And when Hitesh was born, the doctor said that he won't live for more than 24 hours because he was born upside down in his mother's womb. And during the delivery, the doctors didn't listen to instructions. They were supposed to do a C-section, but instead of doing a C-section delivery, they did a normal delivery. And in that process, he lost oxygen in his mother's womb for about 90 seconds. And during that process of losing oxygen for 90 seconds, when he was delivered, the worst thing that anybody can tell a mother or a father is that your son or your daughter will not survive for more than 24 hours. And that's what my aunt and uncle had to hear. And I can only imagine what went through them. But Hitesh is a fighter, and it's been 27 years. Hitesh is still alive, but I think the doctor that made those comments, he's probably dead right now. But I'm not sure about that, but that's a joke. That's a running joke that we have and that Hitesh always makes. But the important thing is Hitesh is doing well and good and better than normal. On top of that, it's also a movement that we've got. We started about 4 to 5 years ago, and the mission that we are on in this movement is to inspire 50 million people by 2050, by 2050, to become better than normal, to live the best version of themselves and to reach the next level in their lives, whatever that may be for them. And essentially, we are at about 2 million right now, and Hitesh speaks globally. I handle the business side of stuff. Hitesh is the main brand. I'm the brains, as we like to call it, the brand and the brains. But essentially, better normal is a way of life, I would say, because who wants to be normal, right? Who wants to be average? Let's all strive to be better than normal.
Yeah. And I think, thank you for sharing that story there. And thank you for giving us a chance to see you. And I think in this particular context, better than normal, I think just really has an important place. And, you know, a lot of the outliers, we're people who, the majority, kind of does things in a certain way. And we're able to be almost the outsiders along the normal. And there's this opportunity that we have to be better than normal, as opposed to reverting down to normal, as opposed to just striving for normal or whatever the majority is in that moment there. So just personally, when I hear about the mission, when I hear about the movement, it resonates very strongly with me. And then on top of that, this goes back to like the large mission broken down in the small areas where it's like 2 million people already, 2 million people already based on 50 million by 2050. So that's something that just, honestly, I look at it, it inspires me. I love how the two of you are able to have your balance there and make something grow specifically from there. So let me ask you here, you mentioned here also just next level, right? And one of the things I like to look at is like the next level versus the next step. And one of the things about you that I always think about is you're someone who has accomplished a lot of the internal things that I think a lot of people look to accomplish, or a lot of people leave along their way. And when I say people, I mean specifically the outliers, pioneers, mavericks, like myself, that is like, in order to accomplish, we've kind of pushed a lot of these other elements out of our way. You mentioned 5 in particular. Which ones were they?
Health, number 1 being health, number 2 being wealth, relationships, personal development, and spirituality.
Yeah, and I know that you do on a monthly basis. You're out there and you're checking and you're seeing where some of those are. And I think what's really interesting about you is that your numbers, they're typically fairly high, right? They're typically fairly high, and so that becomes a really fun place to explore. Where it's like when there's an element of, okay, how do I accomplish? And then you're able to get like the external accomplishments done. And then to be able to go internally and say like the health all the way to spirituality, how am I doing on that? And to also get that into a good place. So when you're succeeding on the external accomplishments and you're like succeeding on the internal accomplishments, I'd really love to know like what then comes next for you? Like what's the area what's the area of possibility for you that comes once you're like, okay, actually on both fronts, things are looking good from an external perspective or to most other people. but there's still more that I want. So I'd love to like hear a little bit about that here, because I think there's a lot of people out there that might be in that situation, and it's not necessarily easy to just talk about it.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, Nemo. And maybe if I could start with my personal definition of success, which I live by. And my definition of success is essentially very simple, and I hope that it gets this message is something that I live by every single day. It's essentially going to sleep every single night with my heart, mind, body, and soul all at peace with one another. So what does going to sleep with my mind, with my heart in peace mean? Heart at peace means with the relationships that I have, the relationships that I have with my loved ones, my colleagues, my friends, and more importantly, of course, most importantly, I dare say, is myself, the relationship that I have with myself. So that's my heart at peace. Mind at peace refers to, obviously, if your money makes the world go round, right? So if you don't have enough money to feed yourself or your family, your mind will never be at peace, I would say. So that's why money is a very important issue. Money is something which is really important. You have to be rich. If you're not rich, then it's going to be really challenging for you to help anybody else. You got to help yourself before you can help anybody else, and that's something which I'm very particular about as well. So that's why the mind at peace, it's where the money comes into the picture. Heart, mind, body at peace refers to both external and internal health. Means you need to be fit, you need to be in the right frame of mind as well as body, and you can't just be having six-pack abs but then taking some steroids and just not just looking good for the sake of looking good, but feeling good as well. I think a lot of the body at peace is about feeling good, and of course the soul at peace refers to whether am I living my life purpose on a day-to-day basis. Am I providing, doing something which is bigger than myself? That's my soul at peace. So essentially, maybe if I could just say it one more time, which is success is, to me, is going to sleep every single night with my heart, mind, body, and soul at peace with one another.
Awesome. There are a few different things that are happening. I can feel myself settling more into this conversation and just being like, okay, great. We're taking the things to this next level. And Outliers, Pioneers, Mavericks that are listening right now, 2 questions for you. A, with what he just said, maybe it's the 5 areas that he looks at, and he looks at into on a monthly basis, or when it comes to the heart, mind, body, and soul. How are you feeling in alignment for that for yourself? Take some time right now as we do this to actually search for yourself and just tune in to how you feel on that. Just a quick check, all right? To see how you feel toward any of those things for yourself.
I think if I could just interrupt you, Nemo, I think the reason why I do that is because I'm a very selfish person and I don't like to compromise. And then people always talk about sacrificing and compromising, and I'm not a fan of that. And I know we've had many conversations about that as well. So I want to have it all. And maybe that's why I do these things which I do, which is keep track of my health, wealth, relationships, personal development, and spirituality. Go to sleep every single night with my heart, mind, body, and soul. It's because I want it all. And I mean, I hope to have 100 years, and I only have 100 years, so might as well I make the best out of it, right?
So let me ask you about that. I love it. I like literally the smile is coming on my face as I say this here, because I don't believe in compromise. I know that it exists. I know it's not that I don't believe it doesn't exist, but I would rather find some way that creates something beyond there. And you say, like, you want it all. You only have 100 years, Mm-hmm. Let me ask you here. It's really cool hearing this, and I'll be really interested in what gave you like your path to being able to actually embrace this. Like when I hear this from you, this is not it's not just a thing that you can just say. You're actually like, hey, Nemo, I need to actually let you know. I want it all, right? So take us to like one of those moments where you realize like, wait a minute, for me personally, I don't want to have to compromise. Like sacrifice is not the way that I want to be doing. 50-50 is not enough. Like take us to one moment there that helped you really get more than just intellectually, but actually like embody the fact that you do want it all, and that you will be willing to be selfish in being able to create that. Because I think that it's something that I struggle with personally. And I think it's something that I've heard a lot from other outliers, pioneers, and mavericks.
I think that's the one particular moment. It's very difficult for me to zoom into one particular moment, but I would say it's because obviously this is something which I recently discovered. I have not always been like that, but I think the reason why I feel this way, or the reason why I believe so strongly in the no compromise and being selfish in that sense, is because I study successful people. And then when I study successful people, it's not that I try to find faults in their success, but somehow their faults seem to pop out at me. A very good example of somebody, in my opinion, who did not live up to, maybe live up would be the wrong word, but someone who did not agree with my definition of success. It's obviously Steve Jobs. I think if you watch the movie Jobs and if you know about his life story, you would know that people around him were not his biggest fans. His family is not something that is, they were not that happy with him. His daughters say that he was one of the most meanest guy that there ever was around. So in that case, when I study more and more successful people, the people who I admire are people who've got that holistic success that is there. And too many times, what happens is there's lots of compromise and there's lots of sacrifice that has to be made, and that's why I want everything to be in harmony. I love everything being balanced. It's not, sometimes I don't succeed at it, but then the important thing is, as long as I'm trying, I know that I'm putting in the effort. So coming back to the question of any one particular moment, I don't think there was anything in particular, one moment in particular that made me realize it, but it was always many different moments in which I was, let's say for example, focusing too much on my relationships, and then other things compromised. I was focusing too much on my personal development, that my health got affected, or it's somewhere along the line where I was going in a little bit too deep in one area that I had to compromise. And that's why, again, self-awareness is something which I really pride myself in, and I was glad that you were able to recognize that when you mentioned in the introduction earlier, because I really pride myself in the self-awareness that I have. And that also comes from doing these exercises on a monthly basis and realizing when things are going out of harmony and out of balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm thinking about the harmony and balance right now for myself, and that element of being selfish and knowing what you want and going for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that there are a couple things out of that really stick out to me, which is you found your own metrics in order to kind of look at your life and say, what does success look like for me? And a lot of times I feel like, and let me call this out, I feel like that is distinctly different than what most people do, which is, what are your definitions of success for me? And it feels like you have your definition. You have the 5 things you look at each month. What you literally defined it. You're like, and I love that you're like, let me tell you what my definition of success is. And I think that's really important. Like, I want to acknowledge you for that there, because this here, I find, is something that helps distinguish what it takes to be out on your own. When your definition of success is so clear, then as you're making these choices to be an outlier, to do something different, to bring a new vision to life that others haven't, to go and say with confidence and with full knowledge that, like, by 2050, we're going to have 50 million people on this platform. I'm living to 100. Those definitions of success there come into play. And so I think what I'll be curious about right now, I'd love to shift a little bit here, and because I feel we can keep going back and we can pull out different elements of your story. And I strongly encourage anyone that's watching or listening to this to go on, check out your platform, Better Than Normal, see a lot of the other things that are associated with that, because quite frankly, there's just a lot to learn through that process, and there's a lot to be inspired and to really shape up to. I was wearing a better than normal t-shirt the other day when I went to the gym. I'm like, I went to the gym. I'm feeling it.
Did you do more reps than you usually would?
Definitely. Well, the thing is, every time I wear that shirt, I have to do push-ups. It's like one and the other.
Oh, yeah.
You got called on stage and they're like, do some push-ups. I'm like, I was not anticipating this, but let's do it. So let's do this here. Let's make sure we share all that out there. I think there's so much that people will get about who you are and how you show up in that business and in the world through that. And I'd love to go to a definition of success for you today, and really just shift to a place of just like, you've been giving us a lot about your story and how you see the world, and it's part of what brought us to this place here. I'd love to take some time and really just focus on you for a little bit here. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to shift my chair a little bit here because I want to be able to look at you, and I'll be looking out at anyone else that's watching too, but I want to be with you here. And if I'm not looking at you for a while, just know that I'm doing it in order to really be of service in this current moment. So Vicky, you and I, we've coached together. We've had some conversations, and so I'm going to allow us to get to a space that would work for us fairly quickly. Okay. I'd love to take us to a place right now where you can get served in this moment. You've served everyone else up until this point, and the idea of just being selfish, right? And knowing the things that are important to you. I'd love to create some space for us to just spend some time, focus on what's important to you, and what would help you move forward. So with that here, how can I best serve you in this conversation?
I think one thing that's on my mind recently, because I just proposed to my fiancée, as you would know,
yes.
And then the marriage is coming up, the planning for the marriage is coming up, and then I'm also getting a new place for myself, for moving out of the house, and also work is going on. So essentially, again, a lot of times I like to bring myself back to the balance and the harmony, but sometimes, as much as I would want to, I'm still not able to get a good grasp on it. So I'm just figuring out at this point of time, how do I, or what is there any priority matrix that should be used, or anything that you feel will be able to make me focus on stuff a little bit better. And also sometimes there are things which I know I should be doing, but then I don't end up doing, and that's something which also annoys me at myself, because knowing the high achiever that I am, I should be doing so many things. Such a very real example is my health. I know I should be going to the gym and working out more often, but I'm not, and I think that's something which is then I try to find the quick fixes that are there, so the different types of diets and the different types of fats that actually exist. But then me and my dad were having a conversation, and he gave me a very simple rule. I mean, my dad is relatively slim. He's not overweight. He's in good shape for a 53-year-old. He said, all you got to do, and I told the reason why it came up was, I said, okay, from next month I'm going on this diet. I can only eat a certain type of food, and I can't eat fruits at night, because my family has a habit of grapes, apples, all of that at night as part of a supper that we have. So then he was saying, why do you need to go to such extent? All you got to do is just wake up every single day and go for a run, and you do that consistently for the next 4 months. I guarantee you that you will be back in the shape that you want. And at first I was like, oh, he doesn't understand that in order to get results quick, you got to follow this workout or that workout. But then when I thought about it, I was like, it makes perfect sense. All I got to do is just go, because I live in this place called Woodland Circle, and it's literally a circle, and you can just run around the circle 2 times. That's about 4 to 5 kilometers. And I was thinking, why not I just do that? So I'm just wondering between choosing which is better. Should I do my rounds, because it might take a little bit longer, or shall I follow the Total Transformation 7 minutes workout, which you can find on YouTube and makes life a lot easier for me. So that's what I'm actually deciding on at this point of time. I hope that makes sense.
It does in certain areas. And as you were saying this, the question that came to mind for me was just to go back to what you said about you living to 100, right? There's, in this current time frame, it seems like, am I choosing the 7-minute workout or am I like going to invest longer so that over the next 4 months, it gets me to where I am, right? And when I think about that in the short period of time, it's like, oh, wow, that seems like a really major decision to have to choose. Right? And then when I give it the perspective and I'm just thinking about you in particular, how big goals, small steps, so forth. When it comes to like your 100-year vision of yourself, right? If there was one of them that turned into a practice that went even beyond what you did in the short term right now, which one of those practices would you see giving you more of the life that you would want, or helping you be more successful and live into the life that you want at age 100?
I think it would be more of the workout, or doing something along the line of sports, and keeping healthy through sports, because I'm not a big fan of running. It's not something which I'm a good runner, but sometimes you can be good at something but not enjoy it.
I was a good actuary, and now we're having this conversation. So yes, I get it. It's like yes, you're multi-capable, right? You can do a lot of different things. So,
but then in those moments, I don't enjoy myself, but then when I do go for those, high intensity workouts and, do stuff like that, because so if you were coming back to the question of which would serve me more, I think it would be the workouts rather than the runs. Yeah.
Okay. And I think like, there's no right answer in this one here, but I think that the big part comes down to what's going to work for you. Your father has figured out his thing, and it's great, and he's giving you more information. Now, it's a little bit of being able to look into what's going to work for you. And you mentioned, I heard high intensity workouts, things that like sports and things like that. There, like, can you create time in your life now at? You just hit the milestone of 30. It's come up in this conversation here. For the next 70 years. Yeah. Right? Let's look at this here. Right. For the next 70 years, like, can you see yourself feeling fulfilled? Like, in terms of your 5 different buckets, could you see those areas being fulfilled in a meaningful way through these kinds of workouts or through these kinds of team experiences? Like, for me in this conversation, I can answer your question and say yes, prioritize X, Y, and Z, but I'm not living your life. And you have 70 more years that you have ahead of you. And if you can start figuring out now some of what would make each and every second of those 70 years that much more meaningful for you, I think that would be a good place there. So check in with yourself really quickly. If you had to give yourself an answer, knowing that you can change it afterwards, it's totally fine. What would be the choice that you would say, like, yeah, honestly, if I continued with this or a variation of this for as long as until I needed to change, I would be happy, and it would feel like I was maximizing my time right now. What would it be? And it may be none of the things that you've mentioned so far.
I think it would because I like the utilitarian model of happiness, and the thing which I wouldn't want to see myself doing is at the age of 98 going for a run around Woodland Circle, assuming I'm still living there, which I won't be. But
we can call it Space Circle, whatever it is.
So thinking of that, because you put it very nicely, I've got 70 more years. But at 98, I do see myself maybe in a tennis court, because that's something which I enjoy, and then trying to do some volleys and serving tennis balls and stuff like that. So thinking about that gives me more, or maybe picking up a new sport. I don't know what new sport that might be at that age. So, and having fun in that process, because games and sports and competitiveness is something which I enjoy. So for myself, it will be more on doing the sports based kind of workouts, more that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And like I feel it feels fun when you describe it to me. Let me put it this way: it feels fun when you describe it to me. If I was describing it to myself, I'm like, I don't know if it would be the right thing, but it feels like something when you say that. It's like, okay, yeah, this could actually continue on for you here. So I would spend some time searching with that. And for me, the area that becomes fun is to be able to consistently create yourself in terms of whatever sport is the right sport for you then. So if it's tennis now, you want to go play it, great. If it's squash, go play it, great. You know, soccer, whatever it is, or football. But to be able to be that kind of athlete and to be in like competitive like sports games all the way until you're 98, like that to me is something that's a decision that happens now. And over the next 70 years, you're also building your way towards that.
It makes sense. I like that. I like the sounds of it because it's something which I've always enjoyed doing, and it's something which is fun. And fun is a very important value. I think you would know we've spoken about this in the past as well. Because I feel, because if I'm going to be enjoying every single second that I'm going to be here till 100, then I wouldn't want to be doing it. Even I want to be having fun in that process. So definitely that's something. So that's something which I would want to take into account when I'm making decisions like this, like which is the best workout, or what is the next diet to take, or stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. Do I have your permission to ask you a question that's a little bit deeper?
Sure.
And you can choose to answer it or not answer it. It's fine. I can have lots of questions.
Okay.
Right? I'm just going to follow what I'm curious about. Right. So I know that you recently came to a milestone year. We're talking every second. We're talking the fact that you're 30 now. We're looking at 100. We have the 70 years in between. Right. For where you are right now, what scares you the most?
For where I am right now, what scares me the most is essentially not being able to do it. In fact, my initial gut feeling reaction was actually death. But then I realized that if I were to die yesterday, I would have been very happy with with the results that I've gotten so far. But then, so the answer to that question would be not death, but any kind of illness or any kind of disability that puts me in a state where I'm not able to go to sleep with my heart, mind, body and soul at peace with one another, or not being able to compute that, the 5 things which we spoke about earlier as well. So I wouldn't say the thing that scares me the most is death, but it will be something close to death. Just a level below death, where you are alive, but then you feel dead.
So let's explore that, because is that all right with you if we do? That last statement, a place where you're alive but you feel dead, right? I'm going to think about that metaphorically, right? And there are times where I'm technically doing things and like I'm alive, but it's dead to me. I'm like dead inside. It doesn't bring me, and there's no life that's in it, right? Is there any area in your life right now where you might be feeling that sensation, where it's like it's happening, it's good, but like, is it bringing me? Do I feel truly alive in it? Or am I living right now in this moment, kind of as though it is that I am dead in that particular area? Is there something that comes to mind there?
Nope.
Okay.
No area as of now.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
I'm as alive as I would want it to be.
I'm loving that. So let's go on the other side then, right? Let's play here. We have a few more minutes before we wrap up this here, but one of the things this is an edge for me. This is an edge for me because there was a time where I could work to get people up to a certain like get to the point where you can feel this way, right? And then the question is, okay, great. Now I'm living here. What comes next, right? So I'd love to hear for you, like right now with what's going on. Think about something that you're looking to create in the world. It can be whatever period of time that makes sense for you.
Yeah.
But let's. I would love for you to challenge me with something that like you're looking to create in the world, or that you're looking to have in the world, or you're looking to be in the world that right now feels impossible to you. Right. Something that you would love, that you're like, look, most other people when I talk through this here, that's not really making sense. I would appreciate the challenge of being able to work through something that's on your mind right now.
I think a lot of it might have to do with the day-to-day decision making, and because I'm a very practical guy, I do use my emotions, I do tune in, but I would say I'm a more practical than emotional person. My fiance likes to say is that I've got no feelings, but I would put it in a way that I'm a very equanimous guy, where I don't believe in being positive, I don't believe in being negative, I believe in being neutral. But sometimes being in that state also does not allow me to achieve the maximum output or outcome that I would like to be, because whenever there's either a burning desire or a fear, like what you mentioned just now, that's something which usually drives action. So I'm in a good place, and I'm just wondering, on a day-to-day basis, how can I make things to the next level? I think with me, it's always about going to the next level, and sometimes it might be the blind spots, because sometimes I feel at the game, at the level which I'm playing, or the reason why I enjoy coaching sessions with you like this and like what we've had previously, is because sometimes I don't know what I don't know, and having somebody there to bring that to light is something which I appreciate and I acknowledge, and that comes down, it brings me to a different level of self-awareness. So maybe that's something which I'm facing right now, and I have to acknowledge and understand that part as well, that there's some things which I don't know, so I don't know what I don't know. So let's say if I was in such a situation, then what do I do next?
Yep. So let's look at this here. I'm choosing right now, in this conversation right now, to play differently for me, right? I'm choosing to play with, you're going to notice, a more higher energy, more rapid fire questions, and let's just see where we go. We might end up here and be like, look, we're great, and I am comfortable with that, right? I don't ever need to have it like in a conversation where they'll be like, wow, mind blown, boom, or like blind spot, totally seen. Like, it happens, and it happens often, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to really make sure that you get served. So with that, there were a few things that were kind of interesting to me, and I just want to just like poke around and just play. Is that cool?
Sure.
All right, cool. Neutral. Help me see that there, because what I heard from you is like, you're like, I'm not going to be positive. I'm not going to be negative. I'm just going to be neutral, right? In what ways? So I'm going to compare that here to an approach that I choose to take, which is that I actually choose the opposite. Like, I'll choose either positive or negative. No, is that true? I'm just checking myself in here. I think I choose the spectrum, right? Where it's like, all right, from the negative all the way to the positive. And if you really know me, I'm probably neutral to positive, right? From the standpoint of getting a 360-degree experience. So if everything comes in and it's just neutral, I'm really curious, actually, in this moment, because since I choose to live things a little bit differently, I'm really curious, what might be missing if you chose to be it by leaving out that positive end for you?
I think a lot of times is not really like leaving it out, but more not leaving it out, but then living in it. I think that's something.
Okay, tell me more.
Being neutral is when I'm living in it. When I say living in it, what I mean is seeing things as they actually are, without any prior judgment or attachment to it. And things happen all the time. Good things happen all the time. And then instead of giving myself credit for it, although I do give myself credit for it, because I am better than normal, right, after all, but then instead of giving myself too much credit for it, I like to keep it neutral. And so that's when good things happen. So because Tony Robbins, I heard he once said that we overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 5 years. So coming back similar to that, when good things happen, I don't like to give myself too much credit for it, although because I know I'm good. But then when bad things happen, I also know that it is not, because when you're at the bottom, the only place you can go is up. So that's why I don't like to put too much attention on it as well, because I know good and bad, it's just two, the yin and the yang, that's just two spectrum of the same.
You mind if I pause you?
Yeah.
I can feel myself. I'm like, he knows this. He's good. So we're moving on. What excites you? What excites you right now?
The getting married, in the things which I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, which is looking for a house, and the kind of coaching that I'm doing, the work that I'm doing, planning for the marriage, looking for a videographer, searching through 5 videographers and seeing which is the best videographer, so that me and my fiance were just joking, if you're going to be spending so much money on a videographer, you better be looking at this video every single day.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so having those kind of conversations and laughing. So what excites me is finding out or creating more moments where I can have fun.
Yeah.
And then these moments, they are fun.
Awesome.
They're stressful, but they're fun.
Nice. And what's the next, like, if you were going to be surprised, right? And look, there's an element of this that takes away because we're already thinking about it right here. But if you're going to be surprised with something in a positive way, right? Where you're like, this is fun. This is a moment. There's a moment of fun that, right now with all the day-to-day decisions that I had to make and all the things that are happening on the day-to-day, like, I just didn't really see being able to have as part of my life right now. What would you love for that surprise to be? If someone was just going to just show up with a surprise in your world, or you had a chance to have a surprise experience of some sort. It could be in your relationships, it could be in your life, it could be in your business, it could be in whatever way. But like, if you're just going to be like, wow, I didn't have to even work towards this, it just came to me. What would you love to be surprised by?
I think that's a very interesting question to ask a practical guy like me. But I like surprises, and I refuse to answer that question because of the fact that it's a surprise. Okay. And if I knew that answer to that question, then I somehow feel that the universe will not grant me that surprise. It's like the wish, tell me what you're wishing for, and if I tell you that wish, somehow for some weird reason it doesn't happen, but everything else close to that happens. So I hope you don't mind, but
I don't mind. I don't mind. This like I said. This is your time. No, like, what comes up for me? So like, I'm going to share with you in our history. There's an element that feels a bit of sadness, and I'll explain why, because it's going to seem really. It's like, why sadness? Like everything else is going there. I once did a youth leadership event. It was for a group that I volunteer with. It was their World Leadership Congress, and there was someone in there that was on the operations team, right? And she was incredibly practical. And I went to her at the end of the week. It was my first time going, and I went to her at the end of the week, and I was like, wow, like this week was perfect. It looked like everything that you kind of like had in place, all the contingency plans, all the contingency plans, all the contingency plans, all that stuff, everything that you wanted to have happen worked out. Like, how do you feel? And I will never forget this year. Like, she just looked at me and she's like, I feel pretty good. I'm like, that's it? She's like, yeah, everything that we planned, we executed. And so everything happened exactly as I expected. And so I feel pretty good. And I remember that, like, I haven't forgotten. It's been 2 years since it happened. And I just felt such this wave of sadness, right? Where it's like, hold on, you've literally done everything that you set out to do. And the best that you can get is just like a little bit better than neutral. And so in this moment, I'm present to that, right? I'm not trying to change anything about it. You don't need to be like, I just want to make sure I'm calling out, like, I'm present to that. And I think, there's a lot of other things there. Like, I'm happy for you as well. The emotion that I didn't expect to feel, and the one that like feels to be like taking up more space than I would expect it to, is that feeling of sadness.
See, something like this has happened to me previously as well, and this was about a decade ago when I was 21, and that was the first time as a financial consultant I got a fully sponsored trip to Hawaii. And I had never been out of Asia before at that point of time in my life, and it was my first trip out of Asia, and out of all places in the world I go to Hawaii, and I'm a beach person. But then as soon as I landed there, somehow it did not feel as exciting or as fun as it should have been for whatever weird reason it felt that way. So when you were sharing that story, that's the moment that came to light for myself, that because I had worked so hard for that particular trip, but then when I was there, it was like, is this all that there is? I'm not saying that I was not enjoying myself.
Yeah, it's Hawaii.
Because
I get it.
Because it's Hawaii. But then is that all there is? And sometimes that's why I wonder, if it's the, whenever planning for a holiday, it's always the excitement leading up to something when something doesn't hit the climax. And maybe, so that's why when you share that story, that's one moment that came to my mind, like what you said about the feeling of sadness. To some extent, I felt the happy, like how you are feeling happy for me as well. But I felt a little bit of sadness in Hawaii. For some reason, I found a way to make myself sad, because I'm wondering, okay, this is not as ecstatic or as high as I would have liked myself to be.
Yeah. And like, I totally get it. And like, I would be remiss if I didn't bring it out myself. Like, I've had those moments, and now like I've actually gone through a lot of work to get my nervous system to stop triggering left and right. And honestly, I'm bored more times than I would like to put out there. Like, I'm just like, this would have excited me beforehand, but like, this is just normal now. You know, like, what's that next thing? What's that part that like puts me back on my edge? What's that part that like has a new level of growth for me or something like that? And I'm just finding myself really curious, because like you got it. Like all this stuff is like what you've set your mind to, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm just like curious here as we start wrapping up in our conversation. I'm curious around, where is a space for surprise for you, right? And with that element of really, where's a space for the gifts that the surprises give, for you to be able to really embrace and be able to have that when it comes in, right?
I think when you mentioned that, coming back to how we got to know you, actually it was a surprise getting to know you. And that was not something which I was looking for, or finding a coach or finding a mentor. And when Jared came to me, and that came as a surprise, that was something which I enjoyed. So I think when you mentioned that about where's the space, I'm wondering, I'm just trying to look back and try to recall what state of mind was I in, or what was going on at that point of time when I got the surprise.
Okay.
Which was meeting you.
No, I'll take that. Like, and it's something that I'm going to be thinking through here, just from the areas of, you give so much, and you do so much for yourself and for others, and I think part of the reason why, when you say you're selfish, I also know you to be a huge giver. So it's like, the more that you can take care of yourself, the more that everyone else gets so much more. It's not just coming into you, but you have taken care of yourself enough to give multiples back to all those around you. Right. And so I am like as the coach in this moment, I am like being selfish on your behalf. I'm like, be more selfish, like neutral. Like, I'm just like, okay, I get it. And like, I would love to hear about like the next time we talk, like something that's just like beyond. And I know, like, we've been sending messages back and forth. I know that there's like beyond neutral when it came to like, getting engaged and like and all that stuff there. So there are those elements in there. I'm not leaving that out there. And as someone who's also experienced like a level of like, okay, I'm working toward being neutral, and then living in the neutral zone. I'm really interested in what like some of those higher frequencies would be like for you to keep the neutral and be able to also experience more of the other elements of it. I think, and like you said, we can't engineer the surprise. Otherwise it immediately goes away, Hawaii. But would you accept an invitation to? I don't know how to phrase this the right way. It's not to being open to surprises, but for some reason it's just that like that area of coincidence,
synchronicity.
Yeah. Would that be something that you'd be open to a little bit more in this? Let's say the next week here.
I would.
I think I have a feeling that in next week. Yeah, I think it would just be a really fun game to play with.
It will be, for sure. Synchronicity.
Okay.
I love it.
All right, cool. Let's do this here. I'm feeling that this conversation is a good place for it to come to a conclusion, right? I want to thank you. I'm now going to bring my attention back over here. I'm going to look at the camera, look at everyone over here. I want to thank you. I'm now going to bring my attention back over here. I'm going to look at everyone over here. I'm going to look at the camera, look at everyone over here. I want to thank you. I'm now going to bring my attention back over here. I'm going to look at the camera, look at everyone over here. I want to thank you And what I want to do as we wrap up all together, Vicky, is to give you a chance to share a little bit more about like what's going on in your life. If people wanted to stay in contact with you, if people wanted to explore more of what to find out more about you and the things you're doing, how can they go about doing that?
I think the best place to reach out to me is through the movement of Better Than Normal, because I'm very active in it, and the best place to find out more about Better Than Normal and our mission to inspire 50 million people by 2050 is on Facebook. So you can like our Facebook page, and that's called Better Than Normal, and you can also search on YouTube for Better Than Normal, or you can also search for Hitesh R. And if you guys like to go to a website, maybe you can check out www.hiteshr.com, and then you can check out the next events that me and Hitesh are speaking to, where we are traveling to, because we do lots of corporate events all around the world, and essentially that's where we update almost everything. So Facebook, Better Than Normal, YouTube, Better Than Normal, or Hitesh R, whichever one works for you, and hiteshr.com as well. And anytime, and just let me know that you tuned in or you listened to this podcast, and I'm sure that we can have another conversation going.
I love it. I want to thank you for coming in and just being so open all throughout this conversation. Thank you for letting us play here. Thank you for giving me a chance to experience more. There's a lot of elements where I feel like depth and seriousness and holding space and joy, and like every once in a while, like that feeling of sadness is able to come in. I'm like, this is really, it reminds me that I'm alive. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank you for being someone who's chosen to live a better than normal life, who's chosen not to revert down to the mean, but instead stand for something and stand brightly for others to be able to also have as a beacon and to go forward from there. With this here, we'll end this conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and the other Outliers, Pioneers, and Mavericks over in the Oasis. Great. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Nemo.
Thanks.
See you guys. Bye-bye.